Okay, Tom Arbuthnot, Mike Levy of Numonix. We on the Numonix side have spent a lot of time talking about how data is the new oil, how call capture and interaction capture becomes the transcript, and the transcript, of course, is what feeds this AI-driven world. Therefore, this is really important for this conversation because anyone looking to leverage interactions for insights now has to look at this interaction capture process as being this foundational element. However, it sounds like there are some potential roadblocks. So let's talk about that for a minute. Tom, you're very close to the Microsoft ecosystem, of course. Can you give us a glimpse, your understanding of what's happening with the Teams roadmap and how it affects this?
Yeah, definitely. So I think first of all, just to echo what you said, like there's so many organizations now looking to use various AI tools to drive insight. So a really common scenario is the sales process and calls with customers, but also things like CX. So that could be full-blown contact center, but that could be also attendant call queues or even the queues app. Like people are looking for, we're having interactions outside the business. How do we gain insight both for the individual to improve their capabilities, but also across the team? So Microsoft obviously have their native Copilot, which is how they give one-to-one support. But when you're into multiple customers or multiple streams, there are various third parties that want to be that tool that is sales insights or customer insights or whatever it may be. So for those with Teams, that means plugging into the Teams call or meeting. And essentially there's kind of two ways to do that. So one is there's a certified supported recording API, which Microsoft have had forever, which originally obviously was primarily around the compliance recording use case, but now increasingly is seen as actually getting the data for insights. And the second way, and a way that caused a lot of problem in enterprises, is bots can just join Teams meetings as guests. So you will have seen this, like various kind of consumer prosumer type tools are just turning up on calls, and some enterprises may be okay with that, but the vast majority aren't, because they haven't approved that data to be taken out of the call and pushed to a third party. So what you're seeing Microsoft do is they're adding things like capture and lobby controls to stop these bots joining meetings, because enterprises are not happy that suddenly the bots are joining meetings, maybe even scraping the roster, doing some kind of viral growth stuff, and suddenly the enterprise data is on who knows where, what platform. So particularly I'm in London, in Europe you've got GDPR and kind of responsibilities on that data. You can't just have any.
So you've got both a federal filter like GDPR, and you've got an enterprise security filter that, both are depending on the company itself, depending on their policies, because I've had plenty of calls where I've dragged in my own recording agent, and they're excellent products, but the first thing that comes up, the human filter says, I'm sorry, what is that thing appearing on the side of the screen? You have to take it off.
Yeah. And that's for the people that are diligent enough to either think about the process or understand even what's going on. So with enterprises, that you can't rely on, like we've told people not to allow these third-party bots. Like how many people actually know how to eject a bot from a call, for example? So yeah, it's the thing that's caused a real ruckus is, particularly with some of the European customers I work with, is suddenly they saw a rash of these bots joining. And they were like, wait a minute, this hasn't been approved, this hasn't been sanctioned, and who knows where the notes are going.
Into this gap suddenly, Mike, I'll turn to you, is the Numonix TRAAS, the Teams Recording as a Service product. Tell me how that fits, and tell me what problem that solves in this discussion.
Yeah, so we saw this, obviously, speaking a lot to Microsoft partners, customers, and in fact being a consumer of Teams myself, of these third-party apps joining. We've seen some interesting things like someone joining 10 minutes late and getting the first 10 minutes in the transcript as well, which was sensitive information. So we can get really, really interesting, and let alone regulation and all these other things. Privacy is important. So what we did is we saw this opportunity to to be able to provide people with best-in-class capture to feed those engines. And again, you mentioned it right up front. It's not just basic audio, it's good quality audio. Because without good quality audio in stereo, maybe even looking at PCM 16,000 hertz, where you split the waveform, we're able to deliver these AI or transcript engines clear, clean audio to be able to get clean transcripts without the risk of being a third-party, not trusted app that joins or bot that joins a call. So we're SOC 2 compliant, or we have an attestation, we have an ISO, we take security extremely seriously. So we're able to enable these providers who are looking to join this AI revolution or this AI rush to the world by providing them an easy and quick way, especially for Microsoft Teams, but we do other UC platforms as well, to deliver, and there's a huge market. Someone mentioned now with PSTN, Tom, you can correct me, like 60 million users or even more. And PSTN, even with those meeting recorders, has been a challenge as well, because those bots can join PSTN calls, they can only join meetings. So you don't only have this pool of audio or media that you need from a meeting, but PSTN for CX is probably more and more where you're seeing the requirements other than meetings.
Yeah, that's an important point. The current bot architecture that some of those third-party ISV use can't grab Teams phone calls, Teams PSTN calls, as you say, so they can interject themselves to meeting, because meetings is multi-party, but they can't grab Teams. But the SOC 2 thing you mentioned is really important as well, because that, what you're saying is like the ISV can use your architecture to connect to Teams, so it can be like corporately sanctioned and approved. So if that organization is happy with ABC ISV product, and as Stephen said, there's some awesome capabilities out there, especially very line of business, like this is for sales, this is for medical, this is for this industry, they can capture the media in a secure, compliant, corporately approved way, and then process it on their third-party ISV platform, however they process it to add the customer value.
Yeah, and I think what's another great little nugget is the flexibility. So within our IX Cloud platform, we built a rules engine where you're able to determine, because natively the Teams bot or the compliance API will record everything. So whether it's an internal call, a meeting, you name it. So we, for IX Cloud, delivered early in the COVID days ways to block certain scenarios so that you could, meet organizational compliance by not recording HR calls or whatever it may be. We brought those rules into TRAAS as well. So you're not saying, hey, I'm plugging in this, I'm going to get hold of the Graph API and build something without any experience, and I'm just going to have to record everything and worry about it on the back end, filtering out and deleting. You don't have to record it. We've built that rules engine into TRAAS to enable you to say, hold on a second, for my insights for now, I just want to grab PSTN calls. Hold on, I want to add for another group some meetings, and I want to add or remove internal calls. So we've built that flexibility into it so customers can build these full-blown applications. And by the way, not only for AI, we've seen other companies that have been, their own hosted recording system from some SIP-based integration now saying we need Teams, but hold on, they now have a media source to plug into their legacy UI, so their customers moving to Teams have a familiar interface. They're not moving now to another product.
Oh, interesting. So there's an extension of a classic reporting product. Like exactly. I can just bring, like TRAAS is presenting me media and the files, and I don't have to deal with graph and certification and
so a lot of the argument here behind TRAAS is SOC 2, ISO, and the rules-based engine that has come over from the IX Cloud architecture. So you've got sort of two directions where you're sort of meeting the demand in the middle. So that's.
I think not sleeping on the complexity of integrating into Graph as well. Like Michael and I have done a podcast on this a while ago where we talked about it. Like Graph is a beast. It's constantly evolving because Teams constantly evolve. So if you're relying on it as an ISV, you need to have a decent amount of dedication to be keeping up with the changes, watching for any new endpoints or whatever it may be, new capabilities. And if you don't, you risk your product breaking. So not taking that on is definitely a bonus as well.
Yep, I'll give you an example. bundling things into one is this new support for conference mode and Teams queues recording. That's been one that even recording companies are snoozing on. We were very quick to react when we built ours immediately in August when the updates were made. We were told, oh, wow, you guys were quick, because that's what we focus on. We have customers in preview testing it successfully, so we're ready to go when that flip switches, that the gates open on GA, because currently the preview is in GA, it's just gated. When that switch opens and the gates go away, we're ready to deal with it. Now, if you're not specialized and focused on it and you don't have the resources, it's going to be a breaking change. From what I heard, and again, always stands to be corrected in the Microsoft space, I think it's mid-January they intend on deprecating transfer mode. So when that goes, you're in trouble if you're not up to date. Now, if you're building AI, do you want to be worrying about that on the side? No, you don't. You leave it to us. That's where we
So let's talk about one of the customers that's using this. Tom, I know that you've interviewed them recently for TRAAS, and that's Gong. I'm curious, how that conversation, how did they react to this? Because I know that they're obviously kind of a marquee customer of Numonix for this TRAAS product. What did they have to say about this?
Yeah, so we had Patrick on from Gong on the podcast. It was really interesting, because it's really interesting to hear what Gong are doing. Like they're on an absolute tear at the moment in terms of driving business value for customers, and it seems to be, as we said, it's line of business use case. Like they are focused on essentially helping sales org, so revenue, kind of generation / protection, AI all throughout their platform. But they wanted, to our point, like a secure, certified, proper way to get the media out of Teams, and they're working with a lot of enterprise customers, so they need to hit those enterprise requirements or they're not going to get into the customer. And Patrick was very complimentary of kind of how easy the integration was and how it all worked, and the support they've had on an ongoing basis. So they're just doing some really cool stuff, and obviously they want to deal with all the platforms, so any time they can push away a bunch of work that's specific to a platform, that's great for them, because they don't have to be up at night worrying about Microsoft changes. They just know that in this case, Numonix are going to take care of that.
Yeah, and I think the tie-up or the partnership was great, because in terms of company strategy, Gong does revenue intelligence, and that's what they do. So they've focused even down that narrow straight. They're not just telling everyone we're an AI company. If you want to know how this happens or that happens, and summaries and all sorts of crazy stuff on every element of the business, they focus on revenue intelligence. We focus on the capture. So I think it was a great match to be able to power their revenue intelligence under the hood. When we first engaged, we did not have a SOC 2, and it was like the first thing they held up. They said SOC 2, like especially in the enterprise, and we put our head down and we did the SOC 2, and it's just translated well into further clients as well. Now when you get to the security review, it's just NDA, share the report, and you're good to go.
Good. So let's wrap this up. For an AI developer audience, what is it they need to be thinking of? I mean, Mike, start with you. I know we've talked a lot about how TRAAS takes a lot of the obstacles off the table, but how do you sort of bottom line this for someone?
Yeah, you don't want to be in the weeds developing your own mechanism to feed it. You need reliable, clear capture that is secure, and that's exactly where we are and where we play and where we dedicate our resources to. So don't be distracted by ancillary things that feed your platform. Come straight to the source where we can deliver you that great clear audio for your transcription to deliver your insights.
I guess to ISVs in this space, keep an eye on what Microsoft's doing around blocking third-party bots joining as guests, because that is going to get progressively tighter, because that's what the enterprises want. They don't want random things joining. If you're anticipating having an enterprise customer base, then things like the security of the media flow, the certification with Microsoft, that stuff is going to be important to them. So if you have aspirations to have enterprise customers, definitely look at things like TRAAS, where you can have a Microsoft certified integration to the API with Numonix and offload all that kind of efforts.
Outstanding. Well, look, thank you both. Good conversation. For anyone going down this path, there are multiple forces to be considered, from governmental to enterprise customer to the own, your own weight on your shoulders from development costs and costs of doing business in this market. So all very good. Thank you.